Hello, thanks for joining us today for the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs Wednesday webinar. Our topic today is going to be scholarship and financial aid scams. I'm Scott Cook. I'm the communications director here at SCDCA. I've been with the agency for a little bit over 2 years. Big stretch of that was as our social media strategist, and I've been the communications director since November. And I enjoy coming to do these Wednesday webinars. We also do presentations across the state, talking to folks about a variety of identity theft, scam topics, and other kind of consumer-related issues. So that's a big part of the job. And I'm glad you guys can be with us today. We'll kind of get started here. And I'll see a few people kind of joining us here as we get going. Today, we're going to discuss kind of how scholarship and financial aid scams happen, and what you can do to kind of protect yourself. So kind of the ways they may happen, or a lot of the ways that we communicate in general. Social media posts, direct messages may come in, especially if you're on social media talking about these types of issues. We find that even with our accounts here at SCDCA, anytime you're online talking about a particular issue, these scammers have bots and things that kind of detect those key phrases that you're using, and then they'll reply to you or send you direct messages. So really kind of be mindful that those types of things are out there, that if you're on social media talking about these types of things, that a lot of the messages that you get kind of randomly are potentially from scammers who are using those keywords to kind of find potential targets. And of course, email is another common way that these things happen. If you're like me, you get all kinds of messages from all kinds of different types of people for things that you've signed up for or whatever. And scammers really kind of take advantage of that kind of mass marketing that can kind of come in through email. So that's one common way that this happens. And then physical mail and phone calls as well. Phone calls are a big way that these types of scams may happen, especially when there's changes in the student loan process or with scholarships, things like that. They know that this kind of confusion and this complicated process is out there, so they take advantage of that with these phone calls, knowing that they can, send out a bunch of phone calls and hopefully snag somebody who is actually dealing with that issue, especially when there's things in the news or things that are going on in these processes that are kind of creating a little bit of, not necessarily confusion, but you may be a little, well, confusion is a good word. A lot of it with student loans in that process. They know it's complicated, and they know you're probably frustrated with it, so they kind of really take advantage of that. And we'll be getting in touch with you through a lot of these variety of ways. And they're looking for all that type of personal identifying information that you might be using on these types of forms, social security numbers, bank account information, and they're trying to get up credit card information, things like that. And they're really trying to get those details so they can kind of use it to create, problems for you. Really, they're going in and they might try to open up new credit cards or get cell phones in your name and information. So really, that's kind of why those details are important for them. And they know if they get those details from you, that they can take advantage of it. In some cases, it's really better than getting money from you. So they have a way to keep kind of taking advantage of that situation. And a lot of times you may get a message and it's going to look like it's personalized. They might say you've been selected for a particular scholarship or a particular financial aid package. And they may leave you with a callback information or details about an in-person workshop. And a lot of times these are usually high pressure sales tactics or sales kind of situations where they're going to try to pressure you into paying for something. And they may say you're going to lose out if you don't take advantage of this opportunity right now. And they may say it's some kind of special scholarship that they only know about, and they're the only group that can kind of help you take advantage of this scholarship or this financial aid package. So those are kind of some of the key things to watch out for, and really just kind of pay attention. And as you're getting these types of offers, really kind of the best things that you can do are just kind of keep in contact with either a school guidance counselor or the financial aid office at a college or university or trade school that you're interested in attending. Those things can really kind of help you. A lot of times you can just ask them, hey, have you dealt with these groups before, or this person or whatever? And a lot of times if they're legitimate people, they will know a lot about them. And if they're not legitimate people, they may, see some of those red flags, or may have known students who've had, horror situations involving those companies and things like that. And they can really kind of give you some insight. And if you're getting these offers too, a good thing to do would be doing internet searches. You might want to put the word complaint after it. You might want to put the word scam after it and just kind of really see what comes up on those internet searches about these companies or these scholarship offers. You can kind of see what other people are saying about them, and it may kind of give you a little bit of insight if you want to give them additional information about yourself. And we're not really going to talk about a lot of these seminar offers during this presentation, but if that's something that you've considered or you're getting invitations to, those PDFs that I told you that we have available to download on the side on the scholarship financial aid scams one, there is a lot of information about these seminars and things to kind of watch out for them. So if that is something you're kind of interested in, really encourage you to download that PDF and kind of read over that information before you go to these things. And it's also available on our website, consumer.sc.gov as well. So as we get going, we'll be talking about some of the common red flags that may happen with these. And if you're not sure if something's a scam, we're going to give you a few ways to be able to tell. So if you hear any of these phrases or variations of them, they're pretty good signs that it's a scam. And the top one that we really put out there is just if somebody's telling you this scholarship is guaranteed or your money back, that's a really good sign that it's a scam, right? You shouldn't be paying for a scholarship. And nobody can really promise you to get money back too. So that's a big red flag. If somebody says, I just need your credit card or bank account information to hold this scholarship for you, it's another red flag. When you're in that kind of talking phase about if a scholarship is out there and if if you are qualified for it or not, they shouldn't be needing your bank account, credit card information at that point in the process. If they're telling you, we're going to do all the work for you, all you got to do is pay a processing fee, that's another red flag. And then it kind of goes back to that idea of you don't need to be paying for a scholarship. And again, if you're a finalist for something and you never applied for it, that's another good red flag. In order to get these things, you typically would have to submit a good bit of information to them in advance. So if somebody's telling you you're, finalist for something and you haven't provided that information ahead of time, or you haven't submitted to be a finalist for a scholarship or something like that, that's a pretty big red flag for you. And again, promises that you can't get this information anywhere else. Typically, information about the scholarships and financial aid and things like that would be pretty widely available online. So if somebody's telling you, I'm the only person who has this information, that should kind of raise some worry for you there. And again, the scholarship will cost money. Scholarships should not cost you anything. They're typically, a way for you to be able to pay for college or, trade school or whatever. So if somebody's telling you you have to pay for a scholarship, you probably don't want to take their offer on that. And we're going to give you a few kind of list of things to kind of keep in mind as you're looking at scholarships and financial aid. Again, the big red flags, and one of the things we'll probably keep saying throughout the presentation, legitimate scholarship programs do not require upfront fees. And if scammers or anybody talking about scholarships, financial aid is talking about you giving them money in some kind of unusual form of payment, that should also kind of raise that red flag for you. And when we say unusual forms of payment, they're typically the things that can't be traced very easily. If you've been on our presentations before, you've heard us talk about these, usually wire transfer, gift cards, cryptocurrency. Those are the types of payments that scammers like to take advantage of, and they do that because they know they can't be traced as easily, and a lot of times they're just kind of as good as cash. Once you kind of give that information away to them, they're able to take it, and get it where you can't get it back. So, anytime anybody's telling you to pay with wire transfer, gift cards, cryptocurrency, that should really kind of make you think twice about dealing with them. And again, never give out credit or bank account numbers when you're in that process of kind of applying for these types of things at the start. And if you're getting phone calls, if the person on the other end of the message won't really tell you who they are, who they're involved with and stuff. That's a gigantic red flag. So if that's the case, really kind of back away and don't do business with that person. And you're probably going to want to start to ask them a lot of questions about how they got your name, how they got your contact information, stuff like that. So just start kind of asking as many questions as you can come up with at that point, kind of see how they're getting your information. And again, there's no such thing as a guaranteed scholarship in exchange for a fee. And legitimate scholarship is going to be based on merit, need, and kind of not your willingness to pay a registration fee. And again, so you've probably applied for something like this and provided some information about things that you've done and why you would deserve this. So, again, it's going to be based on things that you've done or accomplishments that you've made, or, something that's unique, that really about who you are and why you should be getting this scholarship. And it's not going to be based on your ability to pay an upfront fee. So really kind of, if you're hearing those types of things, that's a real big red flag for you. And again, the U.S. Department of Education is never going to ask for your studentaid.gov username and password. So if you're dealing with somebody, and even if they're helping you fill out those FAFSA forms, really kind of protect that information, right? Because that's going to give them access to be able to get into your account, get a lot of information about you. So anytime anybody's asking for that username or password, don't give it out, and really kind of protect it. That's kind of a key way that people can get information about you and get kind of access to that data. So you're going to want to keep that information to yourself and protect that password and that username information. Again, even if somebody's kind of helping you fill out those forms, don't share that information with them. And anytime you get calls, emails, text messages about student loans, really kind of be cautious. Right? I know a lot of times, especially text messages, I get a lot of those, and I know, anytime that there's any national news about, student loans or loan forgiveness, especially, we've seen that with text message scams and stuff. Anytime that stuff gets in the news and these cycles of when these things are coming up, that's kind of when scammers really kick in again with those phone calls and text messages and emails. So kind of be cautious at any time you're getting those messages and you're not the one who's requested that information, right? So if it's not a call or a text, email that you're kind of initiating, be kind of cautious of that. And another important thing to kind of keep in mind is just because something has a seal of the U.S. Department of Education on it doesn't mean it's legit. A lot of times scammers will take those seals and they'll put them on, either things they're trying to sell or, different kind of offers, and they're trying to make it look like somebody that somebody that you trust is involved in their either their website or their emails or whatever. So really just kind of keep in mind that anytime it's got that seal on it, it doesn't necessarily mean it's legit. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're looking over these things. And again, scammers will promise kind of fast loan forgiveness. Nobody who's legitimate is going to promise you loan forgiveness, and especially quickly. So if those are the types of things that are going on, really kind of keep those in mind and take a look at what's being sent to you. Just kind of good information to keep in mind with something like this. Studentaid.gov is going to be kind of a good resource for you if you're a federal borrower. And if you're a private borrower, you're looking at those kind of loan forgiveness type things, you're going to want to start by talking to your loan service provider. You probably have their information, some of that paperwork and things that you filled out throughout that process. So you're going to want to use those contact methods that are legitimate, those things that you probably already have. So anytime those contacts are coming to you out of the blue, kind of keep that in mind. And again, you're never going to have to pay up front to kind of deal with your debts with that kind of stuff. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Again, these promises of fast loan forgiveness, especially if they don't know your situation yet, that's not going to be legitimate. So keep that in mind. And once again, don't share those the username, that password, that type of information with people. Keep that stuff to yourself. And we've got a little bit of links here, so hopefully if you've downloaded the presentation, you'll be able to click these. And like I said, this is a pretty good resource here, the Student Loan Forgiveness Scams website here. So hopefully if we click that here, that will load up for you. And you should see this here. That's on the studentaid.gov website. And they've got a little bit of information for you, a lot of the same stuff that we've shown, and they might kind of give you some examples of some of the text messages and things that you might get. And I like this site or this page because it does give you those kind of email addresses and those text message numbers that will be the legitimate ones. But again, I mean, keep spoofing in mind as well, because scammers sometimes can make these things look legitimate. But that's a good resource to have. And again, always double check any URLs and email addresses as you get them and things like that. And they'll give you a little bit of information about things that you can do to kind of walk through that, and especially if you're looking at some of the loan service providers and things like that. And I'm going to show you now again that PDF that we have with our site. So if you downloaded this, again, it's got our red flags on it. It's got a little bit of information, like I said earlier, about attending the seminars. So if that's something you're going to want to look into, just kind of know that there are some things you should keep in mind in there. And as always, we've got information about protecting your identity, and we'll give you some of those links in that document as well. So if you need to click through with some of these forms and some of those things, that information is on that site as well. And I added the South Carolina Commission on Higher Education here a little bit ago. This is a good resource to have, especially if you're a South Carolina resident looking at scholarship and grants, that type of thing. This will kind of give you a little bit of information on you know, kind of those criteria for qualifying and things like that. And then they've got some of the deadline stuff on there as well, and when you have to apply and all that. So as these things are coming in, you'll want to kind of click through things like this to be able to kind of look at that. Again, that's South Carolina Commission on Higher Education. So that would be a good resource for you as well. And again, you know, as you're getting these types of things, it's just kind of important to stress not to give your personal information over to these, you know, any other kind of types of things. I know a lot of times when you're filling out some of these applications, you got to give away some pretty sensitive information, but just kind of keep in mind that you don't want to do that anytime that you're not the one initiating that contact. That, you know, if you're getting these messages out of the blue, that's really kind of that big red flag to not give your information out. And again, we always like to talk about our roadmap to avoid scams, and these kind of apply to a lot of different types of scams, but you know, it's also important to keep in mind with these. Again, it's don't answer those calls or text messages from numbers you don't know. If you're getting a lot of these, if you're, you know, seeing them coming into your phone or text messages, block those numbers. You know, you don't want to have that risk of accidentally clicking something or answering calls from these known scammers. And again, don't give personal financial information for requests that you didn't make. Legitimate businesses aren't going to most likely call you out of the blue like that and start demanding all kinds of information. So if you're getting these types of demands for information, you'll want to hang up and then call those numbers yourself, or not the number that came in, but the legitimate number for that. So if you've got a loan provider, go back to that, you know, their website or their bills that they've probably given you, look at those legitimate ways to contact them. And don't fall for high pressure tactics. Again, it's that thing that you've got to act now or you're going to miss out on these scholarships or these financial aid opportunities. Most scholarships, they've got this information out there months ahead of time. They know these deadlines are out there, you know, at certain points in time every year. So they're not suddenly going to get a hold of you and say, you've got to act right now or you're going to miss out. So this is something that you should kind of started a long time ago, probably. So, you know, really kind of think about those high pressure tactics. And especially if you're going to, you know, one of these seminars where they're saying you've got to act right now, here and there, that's a pretty big red flag. Don't make any decisions while you're attending something like that. You'll want to kind of get that information, take it home, take a few days to think about it before you commit to anything. We kind of know the forms of payments that scammers like to use. Again, we've kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier: gift cards, cryptocurrency, wire transfers. Again, they like that type of stuff because it's kind of as good as cash for them. Once you hand over those gift card numbers or cryptocurrency, that, you know, that money is gone right there. They can take it and bolt, and there's, you know, it's very hard to get that type of stuff back. So anytime you hand that over, it's typically hard to get back, and it's hard for investigators to trace a lot of times. So just kind of keep that in mind anytime somebody's demanding a payment, those types of methods, big red flag, you might want to step back and kind of take a little time to consider it. And kind of one of the big things we always talk about is kind of talk to people you trust. You know, it's always good just to kind of have that conversation with family member, friend. With these types of scams, I would also say guidance counselor at a school, or, you know, especially the financial aid office at these universities or these schools. You know, that's kind of what they deal with all the time. So anytime you have these types of issues, really kind of get involved with them, see if they've experienced these types of issues before, what they may know about a company or a scholarship offer program, really kind of have those conversations with them. That could be a big way to kind of help you protect your information, protect yourself from becoming a scam or identity theft victim. And in our presentations, we always talk about various ways that you can protect yourself. Again, a lot of information is shared when you're applying for scholarships and financial aid, especially you're sharing a lot of that kind of personal information like your social security number, a lot of these financial accounts, things like that possibly. So, you know, it's important to kind of know some of the signs of identity theft and what might happen if a scammer gets kind of some of this information, some of these accounts. And one of the big things you can do to protect yourself is go into your credit report. We say use annualcreditreport.com. It's the only site that's authorized by federal law. So why we say that is you can go to annualcreditreport.com. They're not going to use that information about you. You know, a lot of companies will offer you free credit reports, but they're kind of using that data about you for other services. That's not the case with annualcreditreport.com. You can also call them on that number that's on the screen there. They're going to give you one free credit report from each of the 3 major credit reporting agencies, and they do that once a week now. I know the site's Annual Credit Report, but they are doing that every week for free now. Probably don't need to do that often, but, you know, review it pretty frequently, or, you know, at least once a year we say, but you may want to go into it a little bit more often than that and kind of take a look at those things. You're going to want to make sure that every account on it is actually yours, that it's, you know, accounts that you've opened, if it's credit cards, loans, if there's, you know, a mortgage on there, or, you know, car payments, things like that. You're going to want to take a look at that, make sure it belongs to you, and make sure everything is accurate on it, that there aren't any addresses associated with you that may not belong to you. So just kind of go through all of that, make sure everything actually belongs to you, and make sure it's accurate as well. And if you're worried about identity theft and you think that there's information that doesn't belong to you on those, you can get a fraud alert put on your account, and that's basically going to make creditors take extra steps to verify your identity before they do business with you, and that's really kind of to protect your information. You'll do one call or one alert with one of the credit reporting agencies, and then they basically contact the other 2 and put that alert on your account. So that way, anytime that there's, you know, any kind of credit check on you, those businesses will have to take additional steps to make sure that it really is you. And if you are the identity theft victim, you can get a longer fraud alert placed onto your account that will kind of continue to protect you a little bit more. We also encourage a freeze on credit reports. I know this is one that I've taken advantage of, and we really encourage you to do that. And what that's going to do, if you go to the credit reporting agencies, you'll put a freeze on that account, and then it's going to stop anybody from accessing your credit report, and also kind of prevent new lines of credit being created in your name. So that will stop anybody from taking out loans in your name, maybe opening new credit cards, things like that. I know I've had a freeze on my account for a long time, and I had a situation where there was a credit card that somebody tried to open in my name. I got a message right away from one of the credit reporting agencies that said this account was stopped because you had a freeze in place. So that really is an example of it doing what it's supposed to do. And anytime that you need to apply for a new credit card or a new car loan, anything like that, you can then go in and place a thaw or a lift on it, and you can kind of set that in motion. You can schedule it or you can just lift it. Once you do that, they have like an hour if you're doing it on phone or online to be able to lift that for you. So if you're going out and looking for new credit, you can put that lift in place, then go out and get that. Once you're done with that situation, you can freeze it again, and that will protect your account. And again, you have to do that with each of the 3 credit reporting agencies, and that's really just going to stop other people from accessing information about you and creating those new accounts in your name. So I really encourage you to do that. That's a good way that you can stop, identity theft and accounts like that from being created and opened. And if you think you're a victim of identity theft, you can call our office. You can go to consumer.sc.gov as well. And again, we have an identity theft unit that can kind of walk through this toolkit with you. We do have this on our website as well, but our identity theft unit will walk through this process with you, and they'll look at ways that you might need to, different steps that you might need to take. And again, they'll kind of look at the security freeze, fraud alert with you, but they'll also kind of look at different things different accounts, things that you might need to do to be able to prevent further damage from happening to your credit. We thank you for being here, and we hope that you will join us next week for our Wednesday webinar. Thank you.